the DHS and CISA have a whole program designed to build what they call resilience. And this is from the Homeland Security page, resilience. DHS works with all levels of government, the private and nonprofit sectors, and individual citizens to make our nation more resilient to acts of terrorism, cyber attacks, pandemics, and catastrophic natural disasters. But they also mean resilience to disinformation. And
of course, we now know that elections are part of infrastructure and so on.
Well, your brain is. Yeah.
Yeah. And there's cognitive infrastructure. So this thing is AI driven, which means they've shuffled off responsibility to a machine. When we find out what it really does, we'll be appalled, but hey, it was the AI. In this world, and I don't think you know the answer to this, this is a rhetorical question, do they have to tell the truth when they counter disinformation?
No, I don't think they do at all. Not that I know of.
Or do they just use, antimatter disinformation? We counter lies with other lies to somehow create a neutral charge. In other words, this is propaganda, right? I mean, it's not just censorship. It's not just surveillance. First they surveil, then they censor, and then they affirmatively try to change you, propagandize you, correct your reasoning vulnerabilities, whatever they are, and so on. But are they required to tell the truth in that? And how do they know it? Once again, I'm shocked. What was the big threat? What was the big disaster in America that happened that they needed to come up with these weapons? People talking online didn't cause COVID. And
the biggest sources of misinformation about COVID turned out to be the government itself in the end.
Listen, people need to be, I feel, they don't have to do all the research and all the talking that I've done about this subject. But if I was going to lay down a rule for them, and I think it's important, I'm really willing to editorialize endlessly on this. The minute they see these terms, they have to run. They have been introduced in order to let into American life a set of instruments of control that are not just vulnerable to abuse, but cry out for abuse. Anybody who gets their hands on Argus with political intentions or an agenda has a tool that's invisible. Argus advertises itself as invisible. Right there on the website, it says, the great thing about our product is nobody can tell it's there.
Right. Yeah, exactly. It operates without much of a footprint. Interestingly, this is just yet another one of these companies that grew out of the old war on terror world, and we persist in thinking about these things as two different operations, but they're not.